Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Hello, Stevie.
Hello, Archie, and Merry New Year's and Happy New. What does one greet one with on the eve of New Year?
I think you just say Happy New Year.
Happy
I'm
New
not
Year's
sure.
Eve?
Happy New Year's Eve.
Okay. Well, happy one of those to you.
And a happy one to you.
Thank you. And Happy New Year to our listeners, if you are probably listening to this in 2022.
Indeed. If you're listening to this in 2022, I sincerely hope that old acquaintance have been forgot, but never brought to light. Is that how
never
that
laid
goes?
to rest, I think it is.
Yeah.
Did you know that Auld Lang Syne was written by a Scottish poet?
Oh yeah, old Robbie Burns.
Indeed.
Yes.
Don't start. Should old acquaintance be forgotten? Never brought to mind.
Brought to mind. Okay, well, I'll save that. All right. So,
you could do it if you want to.
I think maybe
save it for the end.
I'll save it for myself. Welcome into the program, listeners. You are listening to Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Today's star date is stardate 147123.1.2, and we're talking about Discovery, season 4, episode 7. ... But to connect. How do you phrase an ellipsis? Do you go episode 7? But to connect. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Well, that's what we're talking about today. Before we get into the episode and everything that happened, we'll do our usual preamble. We'll just say that, I'll start dancing and Stevie will start talking about Patreon.
Yes, join our Patreon and we can do fun things together. In fact, next Sunday, so that would be Sunday the 9th of January, we are having our first watch party of 2022.
Watch party!
And in honor, I guess, of Zora's new sentience, we are going to go back to TNG and discuss and enjoy I think it's Aki, stop dancing for a second.
Sorry.
What did we decide on? We said one of the lore episodes.
We're going to look for the lore episode, a Noonien Singh episode, one of the later ones when he's antagonizing not only Data, but also the crew of the Enterprise. I think it will be fun.
Yeah, to see what happens when AI goes rogue.
Rogue AI.
So please do join our Patreon at patreon.com/setphasers. You can also get early access to the audio episodes of the podcast. And of course, you can watch these episodes live streamed on the Patreon. Aki continues to make funny faces and dance while I do this. It's great fun, and you get to see his lovely little face. Now, on with the show. Well, listen, so much to say. I don't. We should just run it down. There's so much that happens in this episode. Let's run it down. All right.
It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me?
Yes. Episode 7 of season 4, But to Connect, starts with it's really a story of two different types of connections, either succeeding or failing. Two connections in crisis. And it begins with Stamets and Adira are in the lab and they're still doing the data analysis, and they're trying to figure out if they can figure out those coordinates where the DMA came from that's extragalactic, based on the weird particles that they encountered in the last episode. And Stamets is worried because there's an assembly that day. Representatives from all 4 quadrants of the galaxy, Federation and non-Federation, are gathering to discuss what to do about this dark matter anomaly. And Zora has yet to give them the coordinates, but then just as Stamets is about to lose patience and say they got to do something else, Zora says, I should have the coordinates in just a couple of minutes. And we flash to Michael and Book. Michael is still trying to win over Grudge, who at least has stopped hissing at her.
Just reminds me of my grandma's cat. That's what that Tabby
all
used
cats.
to. Used to
It's
sit
all
on
cats.
the stair and hiss at me.
Cats
terrifying.
They do not they don't like anyone, and they deal with the people they do like, if you could even be called liking. The people they won't eat immediately. So Michael's apparently making some progress. Grudge is no longer upset, but still is not responding to the cat toy. And they, Book is sort of impatient about getting information, what they're going to do next, and what the Federation should do once they have the information, and so on and so forth. A burgeoning conflict there. And then they get the message from Stamets that they should come to engineering, that there's an issue. What's the issue? Zora has found the coordinates, but she has decided to keep the information to herself. She believes that giving that information to Discovery they will act on that information in a way that would be dangerous towards them and the crew. And so she refuses to give it to them, and indeed refuses a direct order from Michael that she should give the coordinates to the captain. So a little bit of a conflict there. Michael then is discussing Dr. Kovich has been brought into the situation, I think in real life, not as a hologram, onto the ship of Discovery. And basically is learning that Zora has started to experience emotion. Is she a sentient AI, which there are prescriptions against in Starfleet? He will have to make the decision about that. Michael believes that if given more time with Zora, Zora would give up the information. But Kovich says, let me be the determiner of that. I can figure this out. Trust in my experience. And she has to go to the assembly and deal with that. So they go their separate ways. We get to the assembly. We meet a few old friends from season 3, including General Ndoya of Earth, now General. I forget what her previous
Captain. I believe she was Captain.
And we find out that United Earth now includes Titan as well. People will remember from that episode in season 3, Titan and Earth were at loggerheads. But United Earth is still not part of the Federation. President Relic says to General Ndoya, hey, I'd love to see more of you around here if you got any time down the line. And Ndoya's like, I'll pass that on to our president. Apparently, we find out that Relic's mother's ancestral home was Earth. So she's maybe part human, part Cardassian. And she would like the Earth back in the Federation. Her mother never got to see her ancestral home. We also see Book is there, but he doesn't have an official position. So he's in sort of the attached persons or concerned citizens gallery, approached by none other than dark genius rogue, sexy scientist Ruan Tarka, who we may recall from several episodes ago. It has a weird self-destructive "I'm the most brilliant person in the galaxy" streak. And Tarka expresses a dislike and distrust of politicians. Book says, you have something planned? And Tarka's like, perhaps, let's see how it goes. They begin the assembly. Relic addresses everyone, staying neutral, promises that there will soon be an exact location for those responsible for the DMA, even though they're still trying to get that information out of Zora. They will discuss, they will vote, and then they will act. And so we find out what our 2 factions are. The faction led, I would say, primarily by Earth and the Orions, is that of, we should attack. This is the DMA is an act of hostility. We need to show strength to whoever species 10C is, that's the name of the species that may be controlling the DMA. And Michael, standing in for the Federation, and also Navarre and a few others vote for this idea of doing a first contact procedure to first determine if there's a way to diplomatically, communicatively, find out about this species and the DMA and not lead to all-out war. Michael cautions the people there who say we need to treat this as an aggressive act, not to judge the motives of species tendency based on their own cultural contexts. We get to meet Provost Stakiar from Navarre, a Vulcan. He says there's one logical path, that peaceful approach to first contact, and there's a meaningful look that Book and Michael share, realizing that they may be on opposite sides of this debate. Meanwhile, on Discovery, Saru and Dr. Kovich and Stamets and Dr. Culber are having a meeting about Zora. It's a very funny moment where Paul Stamets comes in, tries to have Zora immediately play music and establish a group hug so that I guess they can speak without Zora hearing them. But Kovich believes in transparency, so they get everyone on board, and we find out that it was Stamets who's really leading the faction that is feeling uncomfortable with Zora's independence, her unwillingness to share this information. There's no way to control her. And Kovich actually mentions Control, the big baddie from season 2, the evil AI that wanted the sphere data to become super strong in Section 31, yada yada yada. Zora is aware of the prescription against sentience in integrated systems, but doesn't know what that means for her. And Kovich puts down that, listen, he's empowered. If he finds that Zora is a danger, is an integrated system, an AI integrated system, he's empowered to remove her consciousness from the ship and put it elsewhere. She would be able to choose her new vessel, body, what have you, but he would forcibly remove her. Adira and Gray burst into the session because they'd like to speak on Zora's behalf. They are trying to defend Zora, while Paul Stamets is essentially sort of being like, we don't know if we can trust her, and she's holding us hostage with this information. Zora believes she has a compromise that can work. She feels that the ship is her form. She wouldn't want to be removed from it, and so she creates a fail-safe device that if ever the crew or the captain, I guess, doesn't trust her, they can hit this button and her consciousness would be immediately expunged from the ship, aka it would kill her. Meanwhile, the meeting is falling into the assembly is falling into ruin. It's contact versus aggressive action. Tarka zips in. He says to Book, "You wait for your moment," and then he beams into the top floor where the president and Michael and everybody are, and he says, "I've got an idea that'll solve this problem. You guys don't realize what's going on here, and what y'all don't have is my brilliance. I've created a weapon that is capable of destroying the mechanism inside of the DMA, the device that controls the anomaly. It requires a great deal of power, so he's created this device that would create a cascading subspace burst, which would cause the anomaly to collapse." And he proposes using Discovery to jump in, deliver it, and jump out. Says it would take less than 5 seconds to do. Yeah.
And so his plan was to create an isolytic explosion, right?
Well, that's what. So Michael says, "Wait a second. A concatenated, a cascading subspace burst. Isn't that the result of an isolytic explosion?" And he goes, "Maybe." So yes.
And now looking, doing some digging.
Yes.
Do you recall the last time or another time in Star Trek when there was an isolytic explosion or a weapon?
I sort of do, because I know they mentioned the Khitomer Accords, but I honestly can't remember. Is it from the movies?
It is. It's from Star Trek Insurrection.
Yes. Oh my God.
So it was used by the sonar, and they were banned by the second Khitomer Accords.
That's right. Ooh, and for those of you who don't know, we did a watch along of Star Trek Insurrection. It's in the feed somewhere, and we go in.
We go deep.
We go deep. You can watch the movie while we talk about it. If you find that episode, it's pretty good. So yes, isolytic explosion, not a good idea. Rip subspace apart, can cause trouble going to warp. All kind, with communications. It's sort of why the burn sort of had the same effect, in that it kind of disrupted subspace, so it makes communication difficult, makes travel difficult, and it could hinder the cooperative efforts, the Federation's attempt to rebuild the galaxy. So that part aside, which apparently they immediately cast aside, at least Tarka's like, listen, we got to do this thing. It's a once in a lifetime thing. Michael believes it could be perceived as an act of war because we don't know anything about species 10C. Tarka points out that billions could die if they do nothing about the DMA. Relic calls for a recess so that people may deliberate privately. And they'll come back together and vote. Meanwhile, back on Disco, Stamets says that this failsafe thing is bona fide. If someone were to hit it, it would kill Zora. The others argue that it is wrong to have a failsafe. The incentive of, or the disincentive of being killed is not in keeping with the Starfleet, moralities. And Kovich actually points out that this failsafe is counter to Zora's core programming. When queried about her core, not when queried about her queer, when queried about her core programming, query about core programming, Zora. They asked, so what's your primary function? And Zora says, my primary function is to care for the crew of Discovery. And that she set that parameter for herself because it is, of course, not the primary function of a ship's computer.
What is it? It's normally my core is to the ship. Is that normally what it says?
Oh, I feel like the core program. I don't know what it is exactly, although we have encountered this in previous Star Treks, but I think it is something like, to of the ship and crew or something like that. Follow orders, or, it's not to care for. That is an emotional context right there. Meanwhile, at the assembly, Michael and Book argue about Tarka's plan, diplomacy versus a weapon. Book is not sure that diplomacy should work. They disagree. Book says he needs to take a walk. Relic comes over and talks to Michael and says she favors diplomacy, but because she brought all these people here, Federation and non-Federation, she has to remain impartial and thinks Michael could give a speech that would convince them if Michael is ready to take upon that political charge. Book on his walk talks to Tarka. He's like, Tarka's like, hey, Book, you could go and convince people. You're able to. So these two persuadery, rators, these orators, are being put one against the other. Michael versus Book. Book notices that Tarka has his scar from one of those chain collar control-y things, and Book asks, why is Tarka so invested in this? Tarka's like, I can't just be a citizen who's invested in getting the DMA. And Book's like, no, I don't buy it. It's a lot of bull hockey. So tell me what the real deal is. Tarka admits, point blank, he needs the device in the DMA to, quote, go home to his, quote, new home, which is far. Apparently another universe, not the mirror universe, he says. He says he knew a friend that they were both working in Osira's lab, Osira of the Chain. They were both working in Osira's lab, and this other friend who was a scientist had discovered a parallel universe, that was not the mirror universe, that had no burn, that had no chain, and he feels that this is his new home. I got the vibe I got here from Tarka was one of the scary fanaticism, but nonetheless, that may be me and judging from my cultural context. He and that friend were separated when they escaped from Osira's chamber laboratory thing. He doesn't know that friend might be there in this other universe. They might not be, but they promised to meet there if they got separated. And so he needs to destroy the DMA, but keep that power source intact because it has the power to send him across the gap between universes to the place he needs to go to meet his friend and be safe, I guess. So it's going to come down to Book and Michael talking in the thing, and it's going to come down to Michael having to balance her love of Book with her love of peace. I don't know. I tried to put that in a poetic way. It didn't really work out. Book goes and addresses the assembly as the Melai Z, speaker for the dead of Kwejian. He gives an emotional speech. He admits that communication and diplomacy may have been in the way of the Federation, but these are not normal times. We need to defend ourselves. We need to recognize the risk, but don't wait until the people you love are taken from you before you act. Relic asks if anyone will oppose, and Michael actually freezes up. And then just as she says, I guess no one else will speak, and we will go into the voting portion. Michael says she will speak up at this same instant, as far as editing is concerned. Stamets et al. Are looking into Zora's operating system, and they find a part of the system that doesn't have the syntax of the rest of the system, doesn't match anything else. It is a sector that Zora says appeared spontaneously. Stamets asks for a complete diagnostic. Zora says, sure. Adira goes in and examines, and they see all these images from past seasons. Disco going to the future with Michael in the lead, the Red Angel, that big fight with Control at the end, first encountering the sphere data, and Culber believes what they're looking into is Zora's unconsciousness, into her dreams. And Stamets wonders if it's deliberate. Kovich believes Zora is unaware of it, that these are truly her subconscious thoughts. AIs, however, they may be, are not usually able to dream unless they have been programmed to do so. Zora posits that yes, these images from the past, that those memories and also the sphere data are what makes her her. They are the sum of her parts, but that she is somehow more than the sum of her parts. She calls the crew her family. Meanwhile, Michael is addressing the assembly, and she says, we have to reach first for understanding. For generations, the Federation has fought to seek out new life, new civilizations, take us all the way back to the TOS voiceover intro. And we can't let fear define us in this moment. We need to decide who we want to be. And Stamets makes a breakthrough with Zora once he realizes this. He says he's willing to trust Zora as long as that trust can go both ways. And the only way they'll be able to move forward is together. And Zora has to trust her family too. And Michael says that, this is the moment of truth. But Book comes in at the end of her thing and says that there may be some disagreements, the gulf between which there is no ability to move forward after the disagreement is laid down. So we have this, trust has to go both ways. We have to move forward together if we're going to move forward. And then Book offering this other thought that sometimes the difference is too great for people to move forward, even though they have a difference. Zora realizes that she should trust the crew, thanks the commander for reaching toward her, and gives up the coordinates. And Kovich starts typing. The assembly votes. First contact wins, not in a landslide, but handily. Book walks away angrily, looks back at Michael forlorn, and Relic says, "Oop, low power mode. I'm back." And Relic says, wild, that she wants Disco to take the lead on this first contact thing. So the plan is to try and reach out and do first contact with this species 10C. Meanwhile, Kovich, Stamets, and Saru are in the ready room. Kovich is still working on the evaluation. Stamets comes in. He wants to know the results. Kovich says, I'll be done in a second. Stamets speaks to Zora. He says he still is worried about her putting her feelings over their needs, but that everyone on the ship is part of a chain of command. And Zora says, and would Zora like to be part of that chain of command? And Kovich says, I have my estimation, even though Stamets says he has an idea, a proposal. Kovich says, my estimation is complete. You don't need to tell me what your proposal is. But he says, Zora is officially a new life form, not just an AI, a new form of life. And thus rules against the integrated AI do not apply. And then Stamets gives his proposal that Zora join Starfleet as a specialist. Mm-hmm. She would swear an oath to uphold Starfleet's bylaws. Kovich says he would give full-throated support to that. Stamets dismantles the failsafe. And Kovich admits that he had already determined that Zora was a new life form, and that if Stamets had continued to have a problem with Zora, he would have suggested that Stamets be reassigned to a different starship. And Stamets says that is as it should be. Gray goes in to talk to Adira. This is sort of wrapping up the whole episode and this half of the season. Adira knew before Gray even spoke that he wanted to go to Trill because they're here at the core of the Federation, and the Trill ambassador is there for the assembly. And Gray does ask Adira to go to Trill. Adira says Disco is their home, and so they wouldn't want to leave, but they will take some leave time to help Gray settle in before they come back to Disco and help with this DMA thing. Saru approaches President Tarina. I'm raising my eyebrows meaningfully as I say so. With a gift. Apparently, since she made that salt tea that is native to Kaminar, he gives her the flour, the gel of which is used to make the salt tea. Comes from a desert on Kaminar, and so it would thrive in the dry climate of Navarre. Ooh, subtext. And Stamets and Culber say goodbye to Gray and Adira temporarily. Big group hug finally. And then it's all over. Nothing special happens except Book and Tarka steal the next generation spore drive on Book ship. Book sends Grudge to Michael, and then they steal off into the stars in order to do their own two-man gambit to do Tarka's plan. And there endeth episode 7 of season 4, Star Trek Discovery. Done. Yeah, we should end with it.
Sorry that took a while.
No, it's all right. I should have let you know it was coming.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And that's the end of the episode. Crazy. Let's chat about it.
Let's do.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that. Yes, let's do.
Indubitably.
What
do.
the heck? It's one of my you like the indubitably. Let's do. I have so many things I wanted to talk about other than this, but having rewatched it just before we went live now, what the heck, man? Book and Tarka together, a disaster will ensue. It seems like the worst idea. Ugh.
I was so disappointed in Book.
Yeah.
I think I'm disappointed in him for Michael.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, she's now met someone who's great and lovely and all of this stuff. And yet he just for me went so quickly back into kind of, and I get it. He's lost his world and stuff, but it's a very sort of immature mindset of, I've got to avenge my planet and I'm going to go off and blow up the universe to do it.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah. Yeah. A very disappointing look from Book. And you have to, I know grief is grief. And I know he's been working on it and maybe it's not completely put together yet. But to go with a guy like Tarka, who is just a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
And
in any other movie or in any Star Trek movie, he'd be the one.
Yeah,
he's blow up the
supreme
universe.
baddie. Yes, he is the bad guy. He's the con. He's the
he's like the Generations guy.
The Generations guy. Oh yeah. What's his tush?
What's his tush? Guy with the white hair. Crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember the actor's name. But yes, he's that. Yeah, they're always wearing black, and they're a brilliant scientist, and they've been wronged or saddened by some trauma in their life, and they've decided to take that out on the entire universe.
Bit of a trope.
Subtle trope. I will admit that when Ron Tarka was like, I need to get home, I paused the episode. I wrote down his full name, and I tried to see if it was an anagram for Lorca. It's not. So fine, it's not Lorca in a different, but I maintain tinfoil time if you want, but I maintain Lorca could come back at any moment, and I was like, maybe this is it. And I was ready to really crow about how right I was, but it turned out it doesn't even have an L in it. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it seems like it's going to be a disaster, and just the worst decision Book could possibly make. Billions of lives in his hands, but he's feels that he's somehow saving them. I just don't know how he, being a thoughtful space druid with so much charisma and sexiness, can't see how attacking this could lead to it being considered a form, like an act of war. And then what are they going to do with the species that can make this thing, which may not even have been a weapon? Very frustrating.
Do you have any thoughts about the species 10C?
Species 10C. Well, I wish I don't have a total idea of it, but I do feel like probably the DMA is not a weapon.
Okay.
I do feel like it's either an accident or a misunderstanding or just just cultures not understanding each other. And so there will have to be some sort of recompense made.
Wouldn't that
For
be such an anticlimax, though?
Well, but what are you
If
gonna do
it
with
weren't some sort of unknown enemy, versus just, oh, sorry about your bad luck. I didn't mean to do that.
Well, I mean, the climax here is interpersonally that the Federation is being torn apart. I mean, yeah, they could be big, angry, bad aliens. This could be Discovery's Borg moment. But if that's the case, what are they going to use? Isolytic explosions to attack this enemy? Destroying space is just very unfederation-y. I think there has to be some sort of first contact may lead to something more like Federation Klingon TOS or Federation Romulan Star Empire stuff, where it's like they don't get along. But I don't know how they would take on Species 10C if they're so massively more technologically advanced. It just seems so foolish to me. It's the war posturing in this instance seems so self-destructive, not only from Book, but also from United Earth and the Orions and everyone who's sort of seemed to support like fighting this anomaly. It just seems so goofy.
Yeah.
You can't box with God, man. Okay, so that's obviously that is sort of going to be the inciting incident for the second half of the season. This another thing, Zora is now part of the crew. I love that. Zora's a specialist Zora, but also it was like sort of a pilot, sort of the computer, whatever Zora's position is.
Do you think that they're going to incorporate her? Give her a body?
I thought that in the beginning of the episode when Kovich was like, she can choose to go to wherever she wants. And I was like, oh, we're going to get a new actor playing Zora. That'll be cool. Like
on the bridge.
Now it seems like not. It seems like Zora's really attached to Discovery as her body, but perhaps an avatar, EMH style?
Yeah. Why not?
I'd be into it. So that we're not always talking to a blue hologram. But who knows?
Wouldn't it be cool though, similar to the Doctor and Voyager, EMH, if he had, if Zora were to have one of those little patchy things, she could travel off Discovery.
Yes.
And be able to sort of converse or, I don't know, go, experience things and give her opinion as the ship's computer with all of that sphere data.
Yeah, all the sphere data, but would be able to experience things firsthand.
Yeah.
Instead of even through the crew, it's secondhand. So yeah, I think that would be cool. I would love that. I wonder if that's a season 4 thing or a, dare I hope, season 5 thing. Yeah. Yes, I think that would be cool. I wasn't sure if they were going to be like, she's got to be expunged. She's an AI. I like it better that she's a life form, that she's alive. Because I think that, there's a in normal Star Treks, what would happen if something was alive like this is that they would do the Traveler move or the Kel from Voyager. Is it Kel?
Oh,
not
Kes.
Kes. It would be like, turns out I'm a life form that's super evolved, so I'm out of here, and they would just leave, like Wesley does, like Kes does. But I like that they're like, you're a life form, you have unlimited sphere data, but you're young and in terms of emotion and feeling and experience, and so I think there's going to be a nice. I like it. I like this direction, but I would like to see an avatar of some sort. Yes, that would be cool. And then finally, this concept of intention versus action, which gets brought up a lot in this episode, is what you mean and what you do, and how to balance those two things. And I think book obviously represents the idea that action is more important than intention. That if this sphere killed everyone on Quajon, then that is a deplorable act and must be like responded to in kind, whether or not the intention was that. So I don't know. I gotta say, I know it seems anticlimactic, but I am wearing a bow tie, and I do hope that this season ends with some sort of diplomatic Species 10C meets the Federation kind of deal. But it would be cool if Species 10C was like an evolved, less evil version of the Borg or something. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like instead of being like assimilation, they've, I don't know. It would be cool if there was like a species we had met before that somehow was Species 10C. That would be a cool tie-in.
I wonder.
It's the kind of nerdy thing these writers would put together. They like to call back to. Every time I'm watching something like this on Discovery, I'm like, what tiny niche episode of a previous franchise have they found some nugget in that they're building out into a whole season?
Yeah.
It could be one of those, or it could be something brand new. Who knows? But I like this. This is cool. This is headed into a scary, cool and scary direction.
It certainly is.
Have you anything else you'd like to discuss about the episode?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered off book and we covered off this like Species 10C, and I will say actually I did like Stamets and that whole conversation and his reasoning. And
Oh yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, and then Kovich at the end going, "Well, if you hadn't changed, we would have. I'd have gotten rid
Yeah.
of you."
I'd have gotten rid of you. Yeah. Coach was like, no, I liked the Kovich. I've come all the way around on Kovich. I would say season 2, I first was like, I don't know who this creepy glasses guy is, and his vibe is freaking me out. And now I'm like, I like Kovich. He is a little brusque. Interpersonal etiquette could use a little work, but he does great work, and he seems to understand the people he works with, even if he's not great at conveying empathy immediately.
I think I could play Kovich at Halloween or cosplay. Like,
I think you could cosplay Kovich. Oh my god,
it's close, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, you need a slightly different shape of glasses. We need to get you that tie that we were talking about before we went live.
Yep.
Fantastic. I love it. Stevie is Kovich. Dr. Kovich's glasses.
I thought I was going to go as Tasha Yar. No.
I mean, listen.
No.
There's no reason you can't bring 2 costumes. We might be there for a few days.
True. Yeah. It's always good to have a couple.
I love the Kovich. It's low key. It's low key. Well, because you have the hair and the glasses already ready to go. So people who don't know you would be like, wow, I can't believe how much work you did to look like Kovich. And you'd be like, I bought these glasses and this suit.
That's true. The rest of it's just me.
The rest of it is just my normal vibe. What can I say? I love that. I have many thoughts spiraling in many different directions, but I guess we better get into quotable moments.
Well, let's do quotable moments. What did you have? I had 2.
I have a couple of them. This was like a very quotey episode, but a lot of the quotes were big block quotes, which feels unnecessary to repeat. I did them in the rundown. I didn't want to be like, oh, don't wait to act until the people you love, blah, 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 blah. Long speeches. I liked it. It was very Aaron Sorkin-y kind of episode. But there were some smaller things I really loved. Obviously, the cat quote from Michael.
Yes.
Trying to focus on what I can control, the cat toy and not the cat, I thought that was
that
deep.
wasn't the one I picked up.
What did you pick up?
When they were talking about, she likes you and are you making progress?
Yeah.
And he said, well, at least she stopped hissing. And Burnham says, by progress, you mean I've earned her utter indifference.
Yes. It was a great microcosm for a lot of things. But I love that. Yeah. Utter indifference. And yeah, book does say after that, just think aloof disdain is next. I just love, obviously I love Grudge. And I also, Tarka's quote, even though I detest him as a character, I liked his quote. One should never confuse friendly with friendship. Yeah. Which is probably a hint about he and Book's little frickin' frack adventure is going to go.
Bromance, whatever it is. It's sort of they're using each other to get what they both want. I had Saru and Kovich, and Saru says, Zora is undergoing changes, Doctor, but I believe she means well. And Kovich says, we always mean well to ourselves, Captain. Problem is what that means for others.
Ahaha, intention versus action once again. Indeed. But to connect.
But to connect.
And then I will add, finally, I liked when Zora says, perhaps artificial intelligence fails to define me. When we start to realize that perhaps she is alive. And that's my last quote.
All right. Shall we move on to next time?
Next time
on Set Phasers.
Well, we'll be taking a bit of a break from Discovery, as Discovery takes a bit of a break from itself, because they're taking a mid-season break until February 10th. If you have seen this episode, you must watch the trailer that comes at the very end. It is bonkers for the rest of the season. We'll be doing something. Maybe we'll be doing some watch-alongs or watching some movies, but we'll be putting out some sort of content in this month-long break between episodes of Discovery. We'll figure out what that means.
But you will not be short of Set Phasers episodes, dear listener.
There will there will be content.
There will be content.
Yes. So our next episode hopefully will be in the new year. Oh, well, this will be in the new year for those who listen. But we'll be recording at last in the new year, and we'll be doing something, and it will be cool, and you will love it, I hope. Thank you all for listening. This is the end of our program. We've been so delighted to have you with us. Yeah, I don't know. It's coming from somewhere. And yes, if you like what you hear, we put out new episodes every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts from. And we would very much appreciate it if you did get the podcast and leave a review or rating, wherever it is that you do such things.
Yes, please do. Please do. It does help us to reach more people with our wonderful Star Trek content.
Yeah.
We do appreciate it, and we appreciate you, dear listener, as we have done for the last year and a half. Can you believe?
What? Us?
Can
A year and a
you
half old?
believe?
A
Yeah,
year and a
crazy.
half old.
I know. I forget how many episodes. We're at least up to like 80 or 70 odd, I think.
Are you kidding me?
No. True story.
70 odd. That's crazy. That's alarming, honestly, but I feel good about it.
Yep. 8,000 plus downloads so far.
8,000?
8,000!
Who are
Crazy.
you? Who are you out there?
This is essentially our Spotify Wrapped. I don't know.
Oh, yes, check out our Spotify rap. Oh, yeah.
No, we don't. We're not doing that.
You mentioned Discovery a billion times. Okay, yeah.
We do, yeah. But no, please do join our Patreon, and we would love to see you and have more of a Star Trek family or a Set Phasers family,
Yeah.
where we can do more Star Trekky things with you personally.
Including our watch party coming up on the 9th of
Yep.
January in the year of 2022. We would be delighted to see you there.
Yes. Do we have anything else? And follow us on Instagram at
Wow,
Set
yes,
Phasers
that's it.
Podcast. I've just bought a Star Trek cocktails book, so this could be quite fun, where I will make some Star Trek / spacey themed cocktails for you to make at home and get in the Star Trekky mood. And of course, I will probably dress up.
And of course, Stevie will probably dress up. I
have ears.
mean, you got ears.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spotty ears,
I
I've got
listen.
Uniforms.
I might honestly get a uniform as well. Who knows? I'm feeling crazy. It is, you know what? It's the dawning of the age of Set Phasers. So thank you very much for listening, dear listeners. Have a happy new year.
Indeed.
And I've forgotten how we sign off. I think you say a thing, then I say a thing, then you say a thing.
I say thank you very much for listening. Follow us on all of the things. Patreon.com/setphasers. Thank you very much. Until next time, I am Stevie Mans.
And I am not defined by artificial intelligence. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.